Welcome to the Man 360 podcast.
Dr. Joaquin Molina has dedicated his life to challenging men to grow towards God and his ultimate plan for their lives. In his book, What is a Man?, he outlines the steps of what it means to be a true man of value and valor in our world. In this first segment, Dr. Molina shares about the motivation behind this ministry and also what he calls a progression of manhood, highlighting the journey of every man towards his purpose in life. Then in the second segment, he'll walk us through his book, What is a Man?, and give the emphasis and focus behind each chapter. Here's the first part of my interview with Dr. Molina as he shares about his ministry, What is a Man? So, Dr. Molina, thank you for being on Man 360.
Thanks for having us. It's my pleasure.
You know, we had a conversation probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Yes.
And just kind of sharing our heart about what we did, and I didn't really know I was going to do the program at that time, but Yolanda had mentioned, she's like, we need to talk to Dr. Molina because this is his thing. This is what he does.
Absolutely, yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about kind of the genesis behind the ministry and what you feel like you maybe went through as a child and some of the things that you saw that kind of motivated you to be able to do what you do now?
When you arrive to a venue and they invite you to talk on manhood, you'll have like anywhere from 500 to 1,000 men, and they're like, why are you coming to talk to us about this topic? And it's almost like controversial off the start.
Yeah.
We wrote this book, What is a Man?
Yeah.
So the people say, you're talking down to us. And I want them to understand that I'm not talking down to them, that this has been a burden in my heart since I was a child.
Yeah.
And the genesis of What is a Man and the ministry to men actually started in my childhood when I was growing up trying to look for a roadmap in my dad.
Yeah.
And nowadays there are very limited homes that have fathers and exemplary fathers.
Yeah.
So I was looking at my dad and I was noticing his relationship with my mom in their marriage. I came to the conclusion around the age of 10 that dad was a very instrumental part of our home. He was the one that was bringing money, he was paying for the school supplies, he was providing cars, clothing, so he was the breadwinner and he was the, so I'm looking at him and I decide I'm going to celebrate his participation in our home. And I wait for him, he's a medical doctor, and I wait for him to come late. I used to see him leave early and get home late, and I'm going to throw him a party, and he doesn't know. So when he comes home from work, the sun is going down, and I run out to him. I give him a big hug. I give him a big kiss on the cheek, and he pushes me away and says, listen, I'm not familiar with the affections you're giving to me now. I wanted to say you're my hero, but he was saying men don't do that.
Wow.
And so that struck me. So that I guess his repelling my celebration caused me to never hug him again, and then to withdraw and say I don't want to be like him. So then later on in life, he was having marital problems with my mom, and they started going through a divorce and a separation. And again, I didn't want to follow in that, even though he was a successful businessman and doctor, and he was known in the community and was very, very cherished in our community. But at home, there was something deficient. So I went to my older brother. I said, listen, I was 15 now. I'm an adolescent. And I told my older brother, since dad hasn't been hands-on teaching us, he was present at home but isolated from us in relationship. Why don't you teach me? And so it was in the Latino world, manhood is known as who has many women. So my brother thought that I was asking him to go lose my virginity, so to speak. So he says, on Friday, we'll take you to be a man. And he takes me off to a brothel. So now I'm like, wait, that's not what I was talking about.
Right.
So let's call a timeout. I know 2 things today. Dad doesn't know, and you don't either. My uncles were into alcohol, so they were into if you can hold your alcohol and drink and not fall to the ground and could carry yourself about, then you're a man. And then in the streets in Miami in the 1980s, there were gangs, the Latin Kings and a lot of local gangs, and they would tell you if you want to man up, you can carry a switchblade, carry a knife, and if somebody challenged who you were, 16, 17 years old, just stab him and he'll know you're a man. So violence becomes an expression of manhood in a culture that's distorted. So that being said, thank God for Jesus Christ. Thank God for Jesus Christ, who at the age of 16, my 9-year-old little cousin invited me to her youth group, and I met Jesus, and he is the perfect model of manhood. So in my pursuit of the question, what is a man, I spent 32 years just garnering experiences and knowledge. I went to law school. I practiced law. Was really involved in divorce crisis, family crisis, broken homes, delinquency, corporate law, litigation, and I formulated in this book just a roadmap to manhood. And it's 32 years worth of wisdom and experience, and basically the source is the Bible. And you extract from the Bible that first time man was said, when God said, let us make man. So there you are, the chef is there in the kitchen with the recipe.
That's right.
And he's putting this thing together. So what is man? Let us make man in our image and likeness. So I always use this example. If this is the image and likeness of God, then this is what he created man.
Right.
If God is true and man is diminished in truth and becomes a liar, he's subtracting his manhood. If God is pure and man gets into pornography, he's subtracting his manhood.
Right.
If God is generous and man becomes stingy, if God is love and man becomes selfish, some men are so far from the image and likeness of manhood that thank God for Jesus Christ comes down from heaven, and Colossians says the image of the invisible God. So the more we're like Jesus, the more manly, and we become a blessing to our wives and to our children, our families, our community, our church. It's power.
Yeah. Well, let's take a second, and I want to hear a testimony real quick. We'll play a testimony of just somebody who's really touched by your ministry, and we just thought it was powerful. Yolanda and I saw it on your website, and we'll give the information on the screen as well for people who can go to the website.
Absolutely.
But just a great testimony about what God has done.
Absolutely. I'll enjoy that.
So it's such a powerful testimony.
Yeah, Robert Amaya, he's a character. God is using him powerfully.
That's so amazing. So I know on your website as well, just in going through and kind of doing some research about you a little deeper, there's a progression of manhood that you have kind of in the About Us, I think, section of the website.
Sure.
And I thought it was just such a great comprehensive tool, I think, really to show people from moving from that childhood to manhood. Could you share just a little bit about that progression?
We try to do that at our conferences where we're invited to give a visual as to what lies in the journey, because if you don't know where you're going, you don't know how to get there.
That's good.
And so we, after sitting there for 20 years in a local church and not knowing, the older men, they weren't a roadmap, and the younger men were, so there's just a confusion. So I asked the Lord, could you lay out what is in this? And he showed me this first season of a man's life. It's called childhood. And a lot of people, in our case, we have 3 boys. Ever since the boys were small, my wife always says, why do you have so much expectation for them? They're little boys. I go, yeah, but I'm grooming them to be men.
That's right.
So at 9 years old, I was already telling them how to sit down and have a meal, how to dress, how to groom, how to speak, how to greet somebody else is real important. A father teaches a young man how to look in the eyes and shake hands. So that first season of childhood is so important. Some people skip their childhood because they're carrying their parents' marital problems.
Yeah.
So they have a rough childhood.
Yep.
A lot of the inner city kids are seeing stuff at a young age they're never supposed to see or hear.
Right.
And they're exposed to it. So childhood is a very sacred time in the life, and Paul says it in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. He says, when I was a child, I thought like a child. I spoke like a child. I acted like a child. So that is a healthy season. I think we all have that stage in our life, but that stage is supposed to come to an end.
Right. There has to be an end to that stage.
So I don't know when it's going to happen, but it should. In biblical times, it was age 12.
Yeah.
So that first early season, we call them the teaching years, the instruction years. The years instruct means putting things together. The opposite of instruction is destruction.
Right.
So we don't want to live lives that fall apart. We're teaching the first 10 years of a child's life, super instrumental, and they're learning a lot of things. Now the second season, we call them the sonship years. You're going to be fathered.
Yeah.
When you're a child, the nurture is important with mom, but now there was a weaning time where you said, Mom, thank you for your nurture, you did great. Now discipline. And so the second season of a man's life is 10 to 20, and those years are years of application.
Those are fun years, right? Discipline.
Well, that's the problem.
Proverbs talks about the importance of discipline.
When they tell you no to something after you've been, as a child, you eat when you want, you sleep when you want, you go when you want, you yell when you want, all this stuff. Now they're telling you no. Now you got to sit in the classroom. Now you got to listen to a teacher. Now you got to come home, do homework. And so those discipline years, a lot of people fall out during those years and become rebels.
So that's kind of like the time frame where you'll have people kind of slip out of that.
That's it.
Wow.
And so the formation years, okay, so the early childhood years are great, but then the formation years, almost everybody who has an issue in life is that they didn't do the formation years right. Wow. So they become absolute rebels. Psalm 68 verse 6 says, a rebel will dwell in a dry land.
Yep.
There's nothing being sown, there's nothing being watered, there's nothing being harvested, there's no fruit. So it's very crucial, the sonship years, and we say that this is the nexus between being a child and a man is the sonship years where the tutelage of the father is super important. And so instruction, correction, discipline, all those difficult, the Bible says in Hebrews 5 verse 8, it says that he learned discipline through, he learned obedience through what he suffered.
Right. Right.
So it's a suffering, and pretty much what is going on in that second phase is a denying of self.
Right.
If you don't know how to say, my dad's words are more important than mine, or the teacher's words are more important than mine, or the government, police is more important than mine, you become a total chaotic, confused individual.
Yeah.
My brother is a director of Veterans Hospital in Fort Lauderdale. He says the crisis of mental illness are people that do not know how to gird up their thoughts and make decisions, and so it spills over. So those discipline years forge the character of Christ.
Yeah.
And the Bible says in Ephesians 4, no longer being children.
Right.
Tossed to and fro.
Right.
Because a child is easily swayed, but if you forge the character of Christ, your yes is yes, your no is no.
Right.
You're not wavering, you're not led by sentiment, by emotions, you're led by truth and grace. So that's the second phase. So 0 to 10, child, 10 to 20, son, and then now the years of where it says that you're getting prepared for your career and your livelihood. You're going to college, you're working, you got some vocation. You're preparing for the livelihood of how you're going to finance your home. So you're not going to be on dad's, employment list forever. So you have childhood, you have sonship, which leads you to manhood, then husbandry, then fatherhood, which is husbandry is when you tell a wife, I'm going to take care of you. Come and let's do life together. Let's make it an enjoyable journey. A lot of guys don't. If you go into a marriage with selfishness, the marriage is over.
Right.
And so I'm a lawyer, and I ran a family law practice for a long time. The number one cause of divorce is not infidelity, is selfishness.
Wow.
This is what I want, and I usually use this illustration. If you get married, you have a ceremony, and there's usually the candle, the unity candle.
Yep.
So both of you come with a candle, and the groom blows out the candle, the bride blows out the candle after they have lit the unity candle.
Right.
So we're going to make one fire, and we're going to blow out our single life. You can't come to marriage and continue to be single.
Right.
Because now that entity is more important. Why? Because it's the benefit of your children.
Right.
They want to see that we're on the same page.
Right.
And so the progressions are childhood, the years of forming character, sonship, to be a man, to be a husband, to be a father, and then the glorious one is the patriarch. What does that mean? Well, we don't father our families only for their benefit.
Right.
We will be father of nations.
Right.
And that's found in Genesis chapter 45, verse 8, where the Bible says, and Joseph became a father to Pharaoh. Your life is attractive enough, wise enough, carrying the weight of the benefit of the prosperity of those who you lead.
Right.
And that's what they said in the life of King David. They said, we notice how you led your family, how you led your tribe, and we want you to lead Israel.
Right. Because you have that
track record exactly
of
excellence,
of leading and doing the things you need to do in your family, and even the Bible talks about that as well.
One of the men that are in our church right now, he was a cadet in the police academy. And so when you start at the police academy, you're thinking about you and bullets and you concentrate on your career and stuff. Now he is a major, which is right under the chief of police. He's not thinking about him. He has 3,000 police officers that he needs to think about.
Wow.
So maturity is less thinking about you, more thinking about others. So in the progression of manhood, when you're ready to take on the thoughts of caring for a woman, you're ready to be a husband.
Yeah.
When you are laying down your life for the benefit of your children, you're a father.
Right.
So it's less of you, and your life represents more about others. And that is the life of Christ. Why is he our model? Because he took the whole weight of the sins of the world upon his shoulder.
Right.
So now he is qualified to be our model and our leader.
That's awesome. So I want to get a little bit into the book here as well. I know there's a book, and then I also know there's a leader's guide as well that goes with the book.
A work manual, yeah.
Yep, and I know people can go and get a little, I know it goes a little deeper with the website, but just real quick kind of talk through, just some of the pieces and parts that are so important as, as a part of the book, and obviously we'll have the information about how people can get the book and get the leadership book as well. But yeah, so just talk to me a little bit about the book.
The formation of the book is this. In all of God's creation, there's only one entity that has an identity crisis. The cat doesn't worry about not being a cat, and a dog doesn't worry about being a dog, the horse, the monkey, the bear, the lion. But man has an issue. And it's not now in modern days, it's from the beginning. If you read Psalm 8, verse 4, David writes, "What is man?" So the essence of man, and I didn't know this growing up, is triune, body, soul, and spirit. A lot of men spend 8 hours a day at the gym. Or they have a great diet.
On the body.
Right. They're concentrating on the physical, but
Right.
the second part of man is the emotional makeup. We call it the soul.
Yeah.
Your thought, your will, your emotions, and that needs to be nurtured and fed also. And the people that are deprived of, like he says, "Why are you so downcast, O my soul?" That's an area that causes depression.
Right.
So it's not the physical body sick, but the soul is sick. And that's the number one cause of death in America is depression. Why? Because the soul is not being nurtured. And then number 3, your spirit. The Bible says in Job chapter 32, verse 8, every man has a spirit that allows you to understand God.
Right.
So if you're not feeding, nurturing, developing your spirit, you're deficient spiritually.
Right.
And so men need to be wholesome, body, soul, and spirit, then thoughts, words, and actions. So every chapter has an expression of what man needs to be responsible for. The men who are not responsible for their thoughts will be led astray.
Right.
Proverbs 23:7 says, "As a man thinks, so is he."
That's right.
So if you're not careful what you think, you're going down the wrong track.
Right.
Philippians 4:8 says, whatever is good, noble, true, holy, virtuous, think on these things.
Right.
Then chapter 5 is time, talents, and treasure, which also are different areas. We have a limited time upon the earth. God has given us all different talents. If we use our time and talents accurately, we will all be prosperous and wealthy.
Right.
We'll have treasure to steward.
Right.
And so that teaches man that. The cornerstone of faithfulness, the cornerstone of character is faithfulness, chapter 6. What is character? If the cornerstone of character is faithfulness, what is character? Character is what a man thinks, what a man speaks, and what a man does.
Right.
A man who thinks one thing but does another or speaks about another is off keel. He's not headed right.
Right.
So we teach men, whatever you think about, make sure it's the words you speak, make sure it's the life you're living, your conduct.
Right.